Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being on today's Power Hour. We're just going to get started really quick and introduce ourselves. So I'm going to go first. Yatsa Sir Bigay Ganashia, Tapahanishla, Sinjakina Bushishchin, Bilagana Shiche, Sitnajini Chanela. Hello, everybody. My name is Sierra. I'm from the Navajo Nation, and I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona, which is Ho'ona'am territory, and super excited to be here with you all today. I'm a mother and also a wife, and Tomas is my husband, and he is on this live with us as well. So that's who I am. I've been collaborating and working with the Native Wilderness Institute for the past going on 7 years. And so super excited to be here for the Power Hour and to get into this awesome conversation about an amazing opportunity for an art challenge and also a project challenge with We Are Native, and also the Portland, where is it? Also with the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. So that's who I am, and I'm going to pass it over to Josh to introduce himself.
Yes, hello, Hoatani. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Cocker. I'm super stoked to be with you guys today. I feel like it's been forever since we've been on Facebook Lives with you in the Power Hours, but welcome back to us and you. Today, I just wanted to share a little bit about our budding family. So on my mom's side, I'm a member of the Kiowa Nation by that lineage. And we are now found in the state of Oklahoma. And then on my dad's side, I'm Tongan, born in New Zealand, but I'm not coming from any of those places. I'm here in California, and we have a beautiful family here. Welcome to our home. It's blurred out because the office is messy, so don't judge me. We are just outside of Santa Barbara in Chumash territory. So her band is Samala, and we have 2 children. One, our baby boy, he's 4 years old, just turned 4 last week. His name's Antok, means more than a friend. And then our baby girl, Tokia Hodma, means she kills in the snow. She just turned 1, like less than a month ago. So it's been super cool and a really awesome journey as a family. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be with you guys today, talking about, opportunities and access to opportunities for our Native youth. Because we've been needing some super dope ones to come along, and dude, we got one for you today. So thank you. And I will pass it on over to Paige.
Hey, Uncle here. My name is Paige. I am Paiute Modoc. I'm from Warm Springs, Oregon. I am Uncle with the We Are Native team. I'm also a project coordinator at the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. I'm super excited to kind of be a part of the Power Hour. I might be a little bit in the background, but super excited to kind of work along with this partnership with the National Institute on Drug Abuse, so NIDA, the Health Board, and the Native Wellness Institute, where we're hosting a challenge, an individual and a community project. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today and get you all hopefully involved, but super excited to be here and meet you all. So I'll pass it to Tomas.
There we go. Unmuting myself. Keshe, Hot Tomas Carmelo Amaya Leshina. Hi, my name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I am Yoeme and Ashwi on my mom's side and Raramuri on my dad's side. Like Sierra was saying, we're here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's O'odham territory, Yavapai territory, as well as Yoeme and others. So shout out to all our homies from out here, all our relatives from out here. I'm happy to be a dad. I'm happy to be here with the Native Wellness Institute and to have been involved in such a long time and to be able to do art projects within this group that I really admire and love. And so art is near and dear to our family, to our own healing journeys. And I'm really excited to get into it with y'all and answer questions and offer some insight that we've picked up over the years. So Elakwa, thank you. Josh looking around, he's like, I was looking at you, Josh. I'm just kidding.
Dope, dope, dope. Well, hey, today we wanted to share a little bit more about the partnership that we got going on, and Paige, you mentioned it, and you're the one who brought a lot of the information to us. Could you tell us just like a little bit about to our audience, like what it entails, and then we know there's some prize money too, so don't forget to mention that stuff.
No, definitely. So here at the health board, we're partnering with NIDA, so the National Institute on Drug Abuse, as well as the Native Wellness Institute Indigenous 20-something project, to kind of focus on some resiliency building and hopefully help foster healthy communities against substance abuse. So we're having two kind of contests, one being an art challenge where we invite youth to submit any original form of art and describe how it depicts resiliency against drug abuse. And you're able to win up to $500 for an individual submission, or if you get together with some of your friends, maybe $1,000 for a group submission. We'll have approximately about 25 prizes for that. And then a little bit bigger, which is the community intervention challenge, where we invite youth to develop plans for a project that they believe would augment resilience to substance abuse in communities, submitting to us or submitting a plan and a project with a video description. And this is a little bit more funding where we're looking at awarding $10,000 to $2,000. So once those individual things that can help build that resiliency on a smaller process, and the 10,000 being a little bit more community focused and talking about how I strengthen my nation and building that resiliency for you guys' communities.
Okay, that's awesome. So for everyone who's watching, we've had like a lot of meetings in the background before this power hour, and talking about how we can just have a healthy and sustainable collaboration, and what we can do to be able to lift each other up, like around this idea. And I just want to say that I think this is a super beautiful opportunity for our youth to be able to talk about these things. And I think it's a really awesome time to bring it out as well. I feel like if it was brought out maybe even 5 years earlier, it might not have been able to get the same kind of attention, but we're openly talking about these things on Hulu, man. Like the effects of these things happening in our communities, and what to do about it. And our youth are doing this as well in their own stories on Instagram and Facebook, which is incredible. So I'm glad that there's those kind of incentives out there too. And it sounded like, so for the opportunity for a community-based project, you said it was there's an opportunity to win $10,000. Is that more like a business pitch? You said a video and an outline for like a program.
It's a little bit more extensive, but that's one of those where you're thinking about like, how do I make a difference in my community? And maybe you're kind of short on funds, and so that 10,000 being awarded is something to make that positive impact in your community. And that is like a little bit more than like obviously the art that might be kind of like displayed. It's something that has that integral, like working with maybe a prevention team to implement some things, or identifying different platforms and ways and what those could like look like to bring about that change. And I think you're absolutely right with when you're talking about youth. I think 5 years ago they didn't have the platform and the community that they have and the voice that they have nowadays. And the more I talk with youth, they're wanting to make like tangible efforts to actually garner change. And I'm a little bit older now, but when I was a youth, those conversations weren't ready to be had, and like bearing witness to that and seeing that is truly exciting. So for these contests, I'm definitely excited to see what everyone kind of brings to the table.
Awesome. So for those of you that are watching our live, if you know any youth that would love to know more about this opportunity, make sure to give I'm gonna put the link down below in the comments, and you can check it out there on the We Are Native website. Let me see. I'm gonna put it right there there we go. Awesome. So now you guys have the link, and be sure to share it with youth, share it with grandchildren, cousins. I know this time is really exciting because a lot of our youth and a lot of our kids are getting back together, going back to school. And so we just ask, to continue to follow the CDC guidelines and wear your mask when getting together. This is an awesome opportunity for, you and your friends to come together and make a positive change within your community, and doing so, are able to get some funds to help you guys out. So yes, the link is in the comment section.
So I know when we say youth, it's kind of an ambiguous term with no real age defined. So the way we're identifying youth and using it, it's ages 14 to 25. So I know some of you a little bit older youth definitely feel comfortable applying, but that's kind of the age range we're aiming for, is that 14 to 25 mark.
That's awesome. Wanted to jump in here and say how amazing it is to see this type of support for artistic expression, but specifically for resilience and within our communities. I know growing up there were opportunities, but they always seemed like kind of far away or not necessarily geared for me or my community. And so it's just amazing to see more and more funding come up where there is support and appreciation for this art form. And I don't know if we wanted to get into it, all of us here, but just kind of what does it mean to create resilience art, and what is resilience art in general. And I can offer some comments on that and what I think it is. Part of it, from what I've come to understand recently through my time with the Native Wellness Institute and talking to our peers from the Indigenous 20-something project, it's really, I see this great opportunity for celebrating the abundance in our communities, within ourselves, within our families, and really changing the narrative that says, we're coming from that place of deficit where we have to necessarily bring attention or focus the camera on, I think, some of the painful instances or the hurtful instances. I think it's important to look at things holistically, but if we look at the big spectrum of how things have been portrayed, especially in dominant culture, we get a lot of the pain a lot of times. And so for me, when I see TikTok videos or Instagram videos or posts, and the youth are centering healing work and abundance and resilience in really unique and creative ways, whether it's skits, whether it's drawings using digital drawings and things like that, even music, and expressing that way. It's a good feeling, because I have a little daughter now that's she's a year and 7 months, babe. I keep on hovering between 6 and 8 months between them. But having that, I think, experience as a dad and thinking of the way that the world is changing and that type of representation and inclusion of the way that we want to represent ourselves as Indigenous people, it makes me feel a lot better. And so I'm really proud of all of you who have already been doing this with the means that you have and the tools that you have. One thing that I love about our community is that we're so resourceful and just witty, and you can see it in the way that we tell jokes, the way that we could do some quick clapbacks, healthy clapbacks, right? There's some healthy clapbacks. Sierra's good at clapbacks. Oh my goodness. I definitely have learned from one of the best here, Sierra Begay. But yeah, I wanted to open that up to, let's say, Sierra, like what are your thoughts on creating resilience art, and what has been your experience in creating resilience art?
Yeah. So for me, I see resilience art as, it's when I think of art, it's very much connected into our everyday life and culture as Indigenous people. And I feel that, we see it in a more holistic approach. So some teachings that I was taught about art is that, whatever you create, you're putting a little bit of yourself into it, you're giving it life. And so And it also, within my own journey, I've also used art as a form of therapy, and just something that I could turn to when going through a hard time. And so, thinking about this contest, we have a lot of good thoughts for our community. And so making something that could uplift our community and something our community, could be inspired by and they can gain new knowledge from is really exciting. Yeah. And it's really interesting that today of how I look differently at art and appreciate it even more so, and becoming a creative today. And that's something I do for work as well. And so Tomas and I, we are, a big part of our lives is multimedia, whether that is through film or photo, and also like digital drawing. Well, Tomas is a digital artist. I'm okay, but yeah. And yeah, I could really get into it, but before I do, I'm going to pass it over to Josh and ask him what he thinks of it.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that came across in my mind when we were talking about this way back when, in like the early planning stages of whether we were going to be working, as I20SP with We Are Native on this project. When I heard the money part, I got super excited because hearing the format of the project and like what it's going to entail and what it's asking of people, super straightforward. It's like, I think it's been mentioned like 4 times already. It's stuff that we're already doing. And the cool part about it is in like today's world, in like the political climate that we're in, and the access we have to tools, we can get paid to be ourselves. And I think that is like epic, considering that 40 years ago it was illegal to speak our languages. Like this is a big step, you know what I mean? Like we're the space that we're in as like individuals and as a people, it's pretty awesome. Definitely still things to work on and progress to be made. But I think that like whenever these moments come up, man, it's just like my little finger guns are going. I'm just ready to tell everyone I know about it. And it feels good. Like it feels really good. And when I was thinking about this, and I really appreciate, Paige, when you were talking about the word, how we're identifying youth, how we're identifying art is kind of a loose term, and feel free to submit what you have. I think that's really cool, man. Because I personally, having friends like Tomas and Sib and well, just some of the other I20SP crew and like friends that I've made along the way, dudes who have like their work in Indian market and stuff. Like I don't feel like an artist, but I do feel passionately like about my community, and I would say that there's like an art to the stuff that I do. I don't know, it feels weird, like it's like, oh, are you a creative? I don't know, I can rub sticks together real good, I guess, but other than that, I'm not sure. But I love that we're like, there's space even for that, even if it's just like showcasing the work, even if it's just like a talking, like we're doing right now, right? So if we just had like a talking head panel, and you were sharing thoughts and feelings about what you want for your community, and how you guys have been affected, like that counts. And I want to share something too that is pulled straight from the flyer. Uh, it's right under the section, says enter to win. It says there are 2 challenge competitions to recognize and draw upon the inherent strengths and resiliencies of Indigenous people and culture that protect against substance misuse. And then it goes into what the challenges are and how they're done. But this idea of inherent strength and resiliency, dude, this is like 100% what we've all been talking about. We Are Native, Indigenous Milestones Project. There are a bunch of other communities out there who have been talking about like, are people stepping into and stepping into our birthright of power and standing in that and living from that. And really, I feel like there's a lot of cool times to be able to collaborate. And I feel like when we look out in terms of like our people's progress, where we would like to be as nations, families, societies, clans, whatever it is that we identify within our community. One of the things that I really seriously believe holds us back is a lack of access to financial opportunity. And it's just, I mean, it's like how they talk about when they're inviting kids to college campuses. If children have exposure to, or people have exposure to those experiences, they're more likely to step towards it. When it comes to spiritual well-being, when it comes to mental well-being, when it comes to physical well-being, our culture are the answers to those things. And unfortunately, because of how things have been played out in just like the evolution of the timeline, there's more when people think about our culture, it's like an appropriation. Well, now we have a way to be able to do it right, and it's not appreciation. It's like just straight up just being us. And to be able to have that touch, who knows what kind of things like are going to come out of this. Maybe it'll inspire like more projects to be able to put things out there. And again, 40 years ago, illegal to speak our languages. We're here now. Like, what's going to happen 40 years from now? Like, these things like might seem small, but they're big, man. They're huge. And I think it's super dope to even be able to talk about this stuff on Facebook, man. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't know, Paige, what you got? What you thinking?
I got my brains are rolling. I think a word that stuck out to me, especially when you're thinking about resiliency and art, is the idea of exposure. I think we're in an unparalleled time where we have two shows in a year that focuses on Native communities, and that positive impact from that exposure that's felt across Indian country is huge. You look at the lasting impact of a movie like Smoke Signals and how that lasted like 20 plus years, and those impacts where We Are Native still continuously quotes the movie and pushes those things out. And now here we are with this idea and this art form twice in a year. And so I think about the positive impacts that this is going to carry forward. And so when I start to think about resiliency and art, this to me is really that forefront of it. And so with this ask, it's redefining what art looks like. We have a very sometimes very simple definition, right? Painting, it's art and canvas, which is art, don't get me wrong, but it's also so much more. And so when I start to think about like resiliency and art, this exposure really just jumps to my like forefront, because I always talk about how like I grew up in a time where it wasn't okay to be Native, it wasn't okay to be Indigenous. And now that it's starting to become safer and okay to be Indigenous, watching that positive growth take place is so inspiring. And for me, I've always had to define what it meant to be a Native man, what it meant to be Native, what it meant to live or leave the res, what it meant to be on the res, like all of these things I had to define. And so that art is that same thing. And so my art looks completely different than other people's art, because that like I'm an athlete. So like I put myself and I display my art that way. So when I'm doing strongman, when I'm doing disc golf, I'm making sure that everyone knows I'm like that unapologetically Indigenous, and I'm creating that exposure and I'm making sure that that's out there. And so for me, I get really excited about what everyone's definition of art is, and to see their submissions when they're starting to talk about resiliency, when they're starting to talk about like what that exposure looks like. And so those are definitely the things that really jump to my forefront of my thought.
I love that. I love hearing the perspective, Josh, that you gave to like the fact that this is funded and we get to be ourselves. I think that was really good perspective. Yeah, Paige, I think it's a huge thing to have that exposure and representation where there's this kind of wealth of opportunity. And I encourage our youth to take something that we like to say often. It's called a healthy risk, and doing it now is even better, because again, there's people like Paige, like others at NWI, like Josh and Sierra and others, that are creating these safe spaces for us to be ourselves, and for us to be able to share the stories that are near and dear to our heart, but we know that are going to be handled with care. And so, when we say a healthy risk, sometimes there are things, traumas and other things that get in the way of us wanting to express ourselves or put it on a platform or have it be put up for like inspection and scrutiny from other people. But again, as we're expanding the amount of people that we have in these creative fields, that show representation for our communities, then I feel like that is getting a little bit easier to do in certain senses. In other senses, it can be frustrating. Things can be problematic. However, when we really lean and come from that place of our indigenous teachings, we're better prepared to be in those spaces. And so for this opportunity, I think it's just great to have that funding. Like, if you weren't to do it, that's okay. Do you really miss out on an opportunity that will escape? I'm sure there'll be other ones. But if you have even an inkling, if you have like a thought or something that you've been wanting to express and it almost seems like it lines up perfectly to what you've been wanting to say, please like take that healthy risk for yourself and for your family, and know that people want to hear what you have to say, want to listen and read and experience, what you create with your expressions. My uncle would say, each person, each mind is a universe. And because of that, that's how much you hold inside of you. It's a beautiful thing. And so anytime that we get a glimpse of that and under your terms and in a good way, then that's a blessing for all of us. And we get to create these pathways for each other that keep us safe from things that could harm us, such as, substance misuse and all the things that come with it. And as we create this art and create these paths, we're really at a point where the exposure is exponential. It's just going to grow and grow. There's going to be more backing and more funds. And what I'd love to see personally, and my wife and I, Sierra, we talk about this, is we want there to be like, yeah, this exponential growth, but that scaffolding, that framework, I hope has that safe, healthy, trauma-informed collaboration in mind. As it's growing so fast, let's grow it in a good way so that, our brothers and sisters and non-gender conforming relatives are not in positions to get hurt. So as we do this, as you do your project for yourself, as you do your community project, keep in mind the things that you're doing that make you feel good. The way that let's say you run into a challenge and then you problem solve it. Keep all that in mind and then share that with other youth that look up to you, or even elders that look up to you. And keep those things in mind, because as we go forward, in this journey of having more representation in all these different mediums, that's going to be really important so that it stays. So it's not just like a big, a huge wave and then all of a sudden it goes quiet. I feel like this can keep going and going because of projects like this. So I appreciate all the partners that have put this together, and I'm just excited to hear all these insights. And shout out to disc golf. There's a park not far from us, and I'm like, there is an art form to that, and you see people like from all kinds of walks of life, and it's just like this little finesse, like bam, and you just see that disc golf fly around a tree. People like curve it, some people throw it like side, man. So shout out to you, man. Paige, that's an art form for sure. And rubbing sticks too, Josh.
Awesome. Well, it's so nice to meet you, Paige. We're the I20SP crew, and I'm sure you've heard this conversation from Josh. But for those of you that are here, like I20SP, we came together and had a conversation, and how we got together and how our group was formed is we had a conversation about healing. And those we had two questions. We were originally supposed to take 2 hours to talk about to have this conversation, and it turned into an 8-hour conversation. And the thing that we all introduced ourselves. There was about 17 of us, and we each answered these two questions, which is, what does healing mean for your generation, and how can you bring that healing? And so it's awesome to come together and have this conversation and highlight this opportunity that We Are Native has, put out for the community, and have, so I wanted to jump on talking about the community project really quick. Let me just go to the details so that I don't get any details mixed up. And so there's two different contests. There's the art contest, and then there's also the community project contest. And so I just wanted to read this really quick. So the I Strengthen My Nation, American Indian and Alaska Native community projects created by youth. So for this one, youth are invited to develop plans for a project they believe will augment resilience to substance use in communities. Submitting a plan for project and a video description. Prizes are $2,000 to $10,000 per entry. The total amount to be awarded is $85,000. And that's so exciting, because that's giving community members the resources to talk about, to address substance abuse within our communities. And I know that, not only our community, but many other communities, we struggle with substance abuse, and it's unfortunately has affected many of our journeys and our daily life. And so to think about if it's affected you in a certain way where you would want to help your community, this is an amazing opportunity. Sure. If you want to take it away, Josh.
Yeah. I was just thinking about a couple of days ago, officially like got the flyer and was like reading it through, just kind of thinking it over. It's like, wow, this is just like, it's just, my mind has a hard time once it's grabbed hold of something, of letting it go, and it just goes to these crazy places. So I was sitting there and just like letting it unfold, and maybe it was like the hour of night, or I don't know if I just worked my way over there in my head, but so it just felt like, oh, really good. I mean, we've been talking about how amazing this is, this opportunity, but I think one thing that I hope that our youth are able to realize as well with these things is, like, I mean, there's a lot of things I hope that come out of this, but back home in Oklahoma, when we get together every October, we have our turnaround dance. And at the end of our turnaround dance, one of the members of the society, one of the warriors, will share a story from their time at war. And they're modern stories, man. Like, we're hearing stuff about Iraq, we're hearing stuff about Vietnam. We heard when I was younger things from World War II, and they're hard stories, and they tell them in front of everyone. And then at the end, they're celebrated. There's like war cries, and people are like legit shooting their guns like Lulus. It's beautiful. Well, one time, I think I was like 16. It was right before I moved to New Zealand. So yeah, about that age. My uncle asked, he's like, "Do you know why we do this?" After, when we were having supper after our dance at the end of the day, I said, to celebrate each other. He's like, "No, it's so we can help carry their things. It's too heavy for any one person." And so when we get together and we have those like experiences where we let those things go, we're able to like love those people better. We're talking about like substance abuse and the resiliencies that are inherently living within our people that help them, sometimes survive, hopefully thrive in those situations. But they happen. And I just want to say too, like, we've had the opportunity as I20SP, and I've traveled with the Native Wellness Institute, but even prior. So I worked in Papua New Guinea as a young man, building in the Oro province, hospitals and schools and houses, living in New Zealand, being able to travel to Tonga and Australia as well. indigenous communities all over the world are struggling with these things. And one thing that like I'm hoping that comes out of this too is just something that was kind of sparking as we were talking. I was like, oh yeah, remember that? Is that it turns into kind of that process. Like at the end of our talk, oh yeah, end of our turnaround dance. And when we're sharing each other's stories and we're sitting there watching, like we are when we're watching like the Reservation Dogs, there's a line that they repeat, this place killed him. They're talking about their little friend who passed away. And every Indian person who's watching that show is like, mm-hmm. And they have a different idea about what they're saying, but we can all agree. In those moments, like it's like those kids that you're watching, you like you want to reach out to them, you want to help them out, you know. I hope this turns into something like that for our youth who are in the who choose to engage in this stuff. You know, we see whatever it is that they're talking about, you know, the negative effects of those things happening in their communities, but then also those resiliency factors. And as we're seeing that, hopefully we're able to see ourselves in that space too and love each other, you know, in a greater way. I'm literally amazed at where our communities are heading. And I don't know if I'd feel confident plotting like a chart and direction forward. But bro, if this was an organization, like based on the growth that we've had, like this would be the one to bet on. This community, this demographic of people would be the ones to watch because it's happening. I just think it's so cool, man. I think it's so cool. And another thing too is I think that it's incredible that this is like a part of our story, as in terms of like the evolution of culture, right? We went from like painting to quilling to beading to putting CDs on our shields and like fancy dance outfits. And now we're out here like, yeah, so I'll take your $10,000 from my community, you know, things like that's super dope, man. That's super dope. This is like textbook bringing indigeneity into the future and making it happen. And for real, like when I was looking at all the things that we're talking about now, I've never been more excited about these things because of, and I'm sure Tomas and Sierra, I'm sorry, Paige, I don't know if you have kids, man, but I feel so strongly about it because I want them to see this, to live in a world where it's like, this is just what happens. This is just what happens. Like, yes, there's economic, like opportunity for me, financial opportunity for me, just for being me. And that's how I grew up, you know, and all these other things that are waking up in our communities, these different forms of art, these different ways of being, you know, like the canoes, and our languages, and this is all part of it. This is all part of it, and it's amazing, man. It's amazing. So that's just what I was thinking while you were talking, Sib. Yeah, man, yeah. Tomas, Paige, what you guys thinking?
I was going to answer your question. As uncle, I have nieces and nephews. All of you are my nieces and nephews. I have a beautiful daughter. She's 2 years old. But yeah, I think all of this is exciting to me, and it's something that, as a much younger man, I had to have that knowledge and that insight. And so I became a certified alcohol and drug counselor because I was working with youth in high school, and one youth was struggling with addiction, and they dismissed me as their kind of caseworker. And I didn't know what I did wrong, but the competitive side of me needed to know what I did wrong. And so I threw, I think, 3 years into becoming a certified alcohol and drug counselor, and kind of chased that education because I needed to know my relationship and how that happened and how that panned out, and have a better, deeper understanding. And something I get excited about when we're starting to look at these things is that 2 to 3 year journey on top of the work experience after that stemmed from it doesn't need to take place anymore. That there's like these conversations that are taking place and these understandings around why addiction happens and how it impacts your communities and how it impacts, like, on more like even on that historical trauma side of things, and looking into, you know, generations past and how that stems, and these conversations are taking place, and it's starting to take shape and look so, I wouldn't say beautiful, but so real, that healing is taking place, that conversations around resiliency are taking place. And that's a word that isn't just a buzzword anymore. It carries impact, it carries meaning. When you hear historical trauma, though, like what I worked for the state 3 to 5 years ago, and there were still people that didn't give validation to that phrasing, historical trauma. Now jump 5 years ahead, and it's widely believed, and in fact, a lot of people are pushing that further and starting to kind of look past historical trauma being passed through the blood, but also culture, also these spiritual connections being passed, you know, along that side of the way. And that's some of those things that, like, oh yeah, I bear witness to, because I see like my nieces and nephews at social dances that never been to a wash it ceremony, and they know the songs, they know the dancers, and they've never been there. And so it's like, oh yeah, that's that culture being passed down. That's our lifeblood continuing to fight. And you know you have tribes that have never had songs, and now they have all of these different songs that have came forward. And so it's nice to see these kind of take place and starting to take shape, and the understanding that's stemming from it. And it is, I think you're right, it's like I said, like, it's an exciting time. And when you hear some of these like phrasings like, oh, this place killed them, like you're talking about with your show, it's like that's very real, and it resonates with so many people for so many different reasons. And I'm going to go back to that same word, that exposure, that getting that out there where we can have these shared experiences, but with healing in mind, and not the opposite, but we're all trying to heal from that and take away and move forward and continue that growth. Like you're right, that next 40 years, I'm excited what that looks like. I'm curious, and for my own daughter, and paving that way forward is super super exciting, because it's worth it. I don't think there was a time where it wasn't necessarily worth panning out and pursuing that, but now we've gotten to that point where it's worth exploring, it's worth like fleshing out and creating this world that's healthy, happy, and exciting and healing. So yeah, no, definitely.
Yes, there's definitely a time where it was much more challenging. I agree, Paige, to pursue some of these projects or talk about these topics. So as you were talking and about your experience as well, I just wanted to shout out all our relatives who have worked in this line of work for wellness and sobriety, and creating these places to, confront and find healing spaces when it comes to substance abuse and other traumas, but specifically substance abuse. Like shout out to people who are on the road to sobriety, who have been sober, but also to everybody that has asked for help too. That's important. Everybody that's like, whatever part of your journey you are on, either just before you're asking for help, or you've asked for help, or you're through the process. Like it's important that we celebrate our relatives throughout the process, and it's always going to be cycling through. And something that our dear sister and friend Shailene says is, and her mentors say, is that we're precious throughout our entire life, and knowing that we're sacred and precious throughout that time is really important. So as our relatives are going through it, as we ourselves are going through it, it's important that that we realize that throughout that process, not only when we've made a certain jump, are we precious, we are sacred and precious throughout that entire process, and we are loved. And so thank you to everyone who has done that type of counseling and work, even when it wasn't popular, even when there was not, the certain subsidies and financial support for it, or even the belief in it from certain entities, from dominant culture. And there's a quote that I'd like to share from Abigail Echohawk. Shout out to her. And it was on her Twitter a while ago, but I've heard her say it a few times. She says, "We are not a historically, in quotes, underserved population. My history is one of ancestors survived so I could thrive. My history didn't start with Western civilization. I am colonially underserved. I am institutionally underserved, and I am historically resilient." And that's what made me think about the connection to this topic. Just that change of mind, like, yes, we are historically resilient before the time that we are, we see all these depictions of our people going through hurt and going through hard times, but really anchoring ourselves or rooting ourselves in those places of abundance and resilience, knowing that it's been It's been since time immemorial, and that's the wealth that goes into it. A wealth that's not necessarily monetary or in the terms that we've seen in these days. There's a value to what we do, and again, in that, when we're creating these spaces for each other and taking on new opportunities, shout out to the people in legal departments, in intellectual property, and people that navigate those fields. I hope we keep in mind that we are still open to extractive practices. And again, so while we're going through this process of creating and expressing ourselves, it's important that at all levels of this indigenous excellence that we have, that we protect, these beautiful stories and this knowledge, and we care for each other's hearts while we put this work out. Because there's a lot that goes involved, that there's a lot of things to consider, when it comes to giving proper attribution and all these other things. And so Sierra and I and others within this field of art and film and other mediums, we talk about this. Wow, what about the other business aspects to it that might seem very foreign to us in some ways? It's important to have that in mind. But again, shout out to everyone who has been doing the work to create these conversations, who at times maybe didn't have an audience of more than one person or two or four. And now we're just hearing these words more and more often. And I think one of our mentors, Jolene, talks about really remembering to talk about healing in depth, making sure that we are caring with that word, that word is not just placed kind of haphazardly into situations, but that we're really building the connotation and the context of what we're meaning when we say healing work, when we say safe spaces. And so thank you, Paige and Josh and Sierra. And we're getting near to the end of our time. We still have that 12 minutes, but already right now I've heard so many insights about just how big of an opportunity is to be living right now, to have a chance at creating and building with community, and to actually have the support in a very meaningful and I feel trauma-informed way. So to that, to anyone who likes to add some more insight, I'd love to hear and to learn.
I think too, just listening to you talk just a little bit, I think that word intent jumps to my mind. That's what I think I love about art. It's that intent that goes into it, and sometimes the unintentional intent that comes from it, putting pen to paper sometimes and not knowing where to start. But as it starts to grow and as it starts to take shape, you're putting this energy and this intent into it. And for me, that really comes, that's what brings these to life. You can't imitate that intent, you can't pretend, and you can't fake it. And so when we think about art, some of that intent and those intentions, but also how it translates to our lives and how we move forward, and that intent we put into a day-to-day basis, and how we start to kind of navigate that and that patience that comes with it. And so that popped in my mind. I really enjoyed what you said, because I think it's really important to keep in mind.
Appreciate you. Intention is huge. We're very intentional people.
I had just a closing thought, and I'll pass it on over to Sib and the CS of the time. But I think that I was really excited to get on, because I've had these ideas floating around about it, and we're blessed to be able to have this platform to be able to share it with so many different people. I'm hoping again that as we move on from this conversation and everyone goes on throughout their day, let's take the time to reach out to everyone that we can, who can get on board with this. It's really cool to be able to be able to do healing work and to gain access to opportunities. This is that work, like Tomas was saying. This is an opportunity. The more that we talk about these things, the more that we're out there, you know, all picking apart an issue that, again, all of our communities are dealing with, and applying a solution, like the greater our sphere of influence in terms of healing from this is going to be. This is like a massive collaborative project where everyone is think tanking how to help their communities heal from this specific issue. And bro, that's freaking sick, man. It's so cool. It's so cool. So I hope we're all jumping onto it as well. And again, I appreciate what Tomas said. Thank you, Meone, Aho, like thank you to everyone who did the work prior to this happening. All of the quiet things that went unnoticed, and the people who sacrificed things that we might not ever hear about. We appreciate that work, and we know that we're only in this position as individuals and as communities and as a people because of those who came before. And I really don't see how this this opportunity is going to be any different. It's going to be something that future generations are going to stand on. So dude, super awesome. I'm glad I was able to be here. So thank you. And I'll pass it over to Sid.
Thanks, Josh, for that epic Passover. Yeah, I'm thankful to be here with you all today. I'm thankful for everybody watching, seeing everybody's comments. Hello. And somebody asked, can you share when the contest is closing? So the contest deadline was extended to December 10th. And so that's when round 2 of the judging, the deadline. And then the judging will happen in January. So the deadline is December 10th. So you got that information. But yeah, I'm thankful to be on this live, to be able to share and talk to the community, even though I'm within my own home. That's, one of the blessings that technology, where it is today, is we're able to connect with a lot of people and a lot of our community members, and to be able to uplift and share this message is really, I feel really excited and humbled for, because this, plays a huge role in many of our lives. And so if we're able to help a few members or one person, that's what it's all about. And I get very nervous with talking, and so I'm trying my best. It's so beautiful to hear all of you guys talk, and that's something that I'm working on. And so even if any of our youth or our 20-somethings that are watching that may feel that same little bit of I'm trying to take a healthy risk here and doing better with speaking, even if it's on a live. And so I just ask for all of you, if you feel called to do this, to take that healthy risk, even if you feel scared or, feel nervous about it. It's what it's all about, is, stepping out of your comfort zone and growing a little bit. And to be able to do that for your community is exciting and awesome. And I think that, right now we're in a place where we are very supportive of one another and cheer each other on. And I'm happy to be in that space with you all. And I pray that our many generations to come will continue to feel that support with, whatever they pursue to do in their lives. And so if art, if community work is something that, you're interested in or want to give a try, this is an awesome opportunity to where somebody said it in the comments, and I think that during this time and a lot of what we've been going through in the world, is they said it's necessary to be paid for your emotional labor and artistic labor. And a lot of times we carry the stories and we educate people of things that we've been through, and it does take a toll on us. And so to be able to have that community support and that nonprofit support of where you're able to express yourself and help heal your community from substance abuse is, is a project that I'm like really happy to be able to be talking with you all about and amplifying even more. I feel like after this I want to go and like go and share it everywhere, and so I please ask for those of you that are watching to share it on your timeline, to share it on your stories. Make sure to tag all of the partners that are making this possible for our community, because that's the work that we need to do, that we need to continue to do for our next 7 generations. And so I want you guys all to have a good day, to have a good week, and we will see you at the next Power Hour on Wednesday. Paige, if you wanted to add anything else in closing comments, you get.
No. I'm just as bashful as you are. I'm all bright red, and it's just all like I feel that. But I wanted to thank you all for inviting me out here to be a part of the Power Hour. I know our partnership with NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, and the Indigenous 20-something Project is super exciting, and I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what the next steps look like, some of the conversations and the art that comes from this, and just a huge like heartfelt thank you to you all for making this like possible and taking the time out of your day to come here. And to all those watching, I can't even watch myself for an hour, let alone expect anybody else to. So the fact that you guys are all chilling with us, hanging out with us, and listening to us, like that means the world to me personally. But it does definitely help our projects and continue like helping us move forward. So thank you guys.
I love Kwa. I wanted to say we got two more minutes here. Just to say the name of the project again. It's the I Strengthen My Nation, and it's open to all American Indian and Alaska Natives age 14 to 25. So you are either one of these people or somebody that fits the description. So by all means, please share and show some love to people in your community and to yourselves. I'd like us to leave with like an image that it's one of my favorite activities that Josh facilitates, and it's with this rope, and everybody is holding on to a part of the rope in a circle, and then you have somebody walk on top, and it's just like I love that visual so much. And when it came to mind because it's like I strengthen my nation, I think of people holding the rope, and then I also think of when that person's on top and walking around, it also brings people tighter. So I just love that visual, and I love every time you do it, Josh, and every time that we're part of it. That really makes me think of kind of the intention, going back to Paige, what he was saying is like that intention of really creating a place for us to, spring off of and to walk with that strength, and how I've learned from Sierra, walk in beauty. So I really appreciate all those teachings and how we use those visual aids and activities to help us. And so I am excited to see what y'all come up with your proposals and all your submissions. Much love to you, Paige. Shout out to We Are Native. Shout out to NIDA. Shout out to the Native Wellness Institute.
And also the
And also
Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board.
Yeah, shout out.
Thank you guys for joining us.